On February 23, 1957, a young man named Fred Benonis, 26, a junior at La Salle College, noticed the box for the first time. Benonis was driving along Susquehanna Road on his way home from classes, and he saw a rabbit running across the road. He stopped the car and chased after the rabbit, which hopped into some underbrush. He came to some muskrat traps which were not set. This not being the season, he thought he would set the traps and see what happened. Then he saw the cardboard box. It was lying on its side and one end was open. He didn't inspect it closely, but he thought there may have been a large doll in it. Benonis thought no more about it until the next morning when he heard about the 4-year-old girl missing at Belmore. Thinking about the box, it may have been more important than he at first supposed. He returned to the scene on February 25, where he found the body, and called the police and told them about the box. The call came in at the police switchboard in City Hall at 10:10 a.m. Detective Sergeant Charles Gargani got the call. Detectives Edward Repsch and Samuel Powell of Homicide picked up Dr. Spellman at his office at 13th and Wood Streets and sped to the scene. Police responding to the scene found the body of a boy between 4 and 6, nude and bruised, in a cardboard box just off Susquehanna Road west of Very Road, Fox Chase, shortly before 11 a.m. A preliminary examination indicated he had been dead for more than 2 days. The body was wrapped in a blanket. The boy had dark brown hair, blue eyes, and was thin-featured and of slender build. He weighed about 30 to 35 pounds and was 3 feet 5 inches tall. There were bruises or discolorations on his face, stomach, and legs. Dr. Joseph W. Spellman, chief medical examiner, who pronounced the boy dead at the scene, said there was evidence of injury, but that the extent of the injury had not yet been determined. The dead boy's fingerprints and footprints were also taken. Detectives of the Homicide Squad, the Northeast Criminal Investigation Division, and the police started an intensive search to find out the boy's identity. They also began an examination of the area for clues as to how the child met his death. An autopsy was performed at the morgue in an effort to determine whether the boy had been sexually assaulted. Detectives said there were not so many bruises as to suggest that he was beaten to death. The police also distributed a post-mortem photograph of the boy fully dressed and in a seated position, as he may have looked in life, in the hope it might lead to a clue. The possibility of something else was also being explored. A few feet away from the box in the road, detectives found an Ivy League-style cap of blue gabardine with an adjustable belt at the back. It was size 7 feet, a man's size, but there was paper stuffed into it, as though it had been worn by someone for whom it was too big. The cap was trampled and dirty, but apparently had not been there very long. The cap and the cardboard box were taken to the crime laboratory in City Hall. On the box, the word furniture was stamped in red. The box had at one time been sealed across the top with gummed blue paper. It also bore the markings "Fragile" and "Handle with care." On the top in block red letters it said, "Do not open with knife." There was a marking "Package," 25 feet. There also was an arrow pointing toward the top. The box, detective said, measured 36 inches high, 19 inches wide, and 14 inches deep. Through serial numbers escorting to investigators, it was traced to a department store at 69th Street. Captain David Roberts of the Homicide Squad scoured the files back to January 1st for any report of a missing boy in the area. There was none. He sent teletype messages to communities surrounding Fox Chase and further to the north of the city, asking for reports of any missing youngsters. But the boy's identity still remained a mystery. Several facial reconstructions were commissioned in the hope of identifying him, yet none succeeded. On Sunday, February 24, 1957, between 5 p.m. and 5:30 p.m., shortly before sunset at 5:47, a witness reported seeing a woman behaving suspiciously. This sighting may coincide with the time the boy's body was left at the crime scene, or it could indicate someone returning the next day to interfere with the body, conceal his identity with a blanket, or mourn the child one final time. On July 24, 1957, a modest funeral service was held for the unidentified child who had become known simply as the boy in the box. The ceremony was arranged by a handful of people who had followed his case closely and wanted to ensure that even in anonymity, he was shown dignity in death. His small casket was lowered into the ground at a potter's field, a cemetery reserved for those who were unclaimed, unidentified, or without family to provide a proper burial. Though no relatives were present, the service marked an attempt by the community to give the boy a measure of compassion and respect that had been denied to him in life. In 1960, Remington Bristow, an employee of the medical examiner's office who pursued the case tirelessly until his death in 1993, consulted a New Jersey psychic. She advised him to search for a house resembling the foster home. When brought to the discovery site in Philadelphia, she reportedly directed him straight to that residence, a foster home located about 1.5 miles, 2.5 kilometers, from where the boy's body was found. During an estate sale there, Bristow noticed a bassinet like those sold by J.C. Penney, along with blankets hanging on a clothesline that resembled the one used to wrap the victim. From this, he theorized that the boy was the child of the foster father's stepdaughter, and that his body had been discarded to conceal her status as an unwed mother. Police, however, confirmed that every foster child was accounted for, and a subsequent review determined the family was unlikely to have been involved. In 1998, Lieutenant Tom Augustine of the Philadelphia Police Department, together with members of the Vidocq Society, a group of retired detectives and profilers, interviewed both the foster father and the stepdaughter, who by then was his wife. Following these interviews, investigators officially closed the foster home lead. In 1998, the boy was reburied at Ivy Hills Cemetery in the Cedar Brook section of Philadelphia, which donated a large plot. The coffin, headstone, and funeral service were donated by the son of the man who buried the boy in 1957. There was significant public attendance and media coverage at the reburial. City residents keep the grave decorated with flowers and toys. The large headstone, when first installed, contained the words, "America's Unknown Child," with a plaque underneath reading, "Heavenly Father, bless this unknown boy." In 2002, a psychiatrist in Ohio notified Philadelphia authorities about a patient referred to as Mary, a pseudonym. For many years, Mary had claimed that her parents had obtained America's unknown child through an underground human trafficking ring in Kensington, intending to exploit him. According to her account, while attempting to bathe the boy, Mary's mother became violent and beat him to death. Mary further stated that she accompanied her mother to Northeast Philadelphia, where she saw her wrap the child in a cheap blanket and place him inside a cardboard box. In 2016, two writers, Jim Hoffman from Los Angeles, California, and Louis Romano from New Jersey, believed they might have uncovered a crucial lead in a decades-old case. Their investigation pointed to a potential identity in Memphis, Tennessee, and they requested a DNA comparison between the child and the family members. The lead had originally come from a man in Philadelphia who introduced Romano and Hoffman to each other. Together, they developed the lead and, with Hoffman's assistance, presented it to the Philadelphia Police Department and the VDOC Society in early 2013. By December 2013, Romano became aware of the lead and agreed to help the Philadelphia man and Hoffman secure DNA from the Memphis family member. In January 2014, the DNA was quickly sent to the Philadelphia Police Department. Local authorities confirmed that they would investigate, but noted that more research was needed to verify the connection to Memphis before any DNA comparison could be made. Finally, in December 2017, Homicide Sergeant Bob Kuhlmeyer confirmed the results. The DNA from the Memphis man had been compared to that of the Fox Chase boy, and there was no connection. For decades, the identity of a young boy who had died under mysterious circumstances remained one of Philadelphia's most haunting cold cases. The breakthrough finally came in October 2021, when genealogists made a startling discovery. They had uncovered the boy's name. Over a year later, on December 8, 2022, the world learned who he was. 4-year-old Joseph Augustus Zarelli, born January 13, 1953. The revelation was the result of modern forensic genealogy. A distant cousin had uploaded DNA to a public database, and investigators encouraged the cousin's mother, Joseph's first cousin, to submit her genetic profile to GED Match. This crucial step allowed authorities to trace Joseph's biological parents, and a court order for his birth certificate confirmed their identities. By January 19, 2023, the names were publicly known: Augustus John Zarelli, Gus, and Mary Elizabeth Plunkett, Betsy. Even with his name revealed, Joseph's story remained shrouded in mystery and tragedy. At a December 2022 press conference, Philadelphia Police Commissioner Outlaw declared that Joseph's death was still an active homicide investigation, urging the public to come forward with any information.
This announcement only closes one chapter in this little boy's story while opening up a new one. This is still an active homicide investigation, and we still need the public's help in filling in this child's life story.
The death certificate for the unknown child, OME number 57-0863, would be amended to reflect the child's birth name, Joseph Augustus Zarelli. Joseph's date of birth is January 13th, 1953.
Joseph Augustus Zarelli represents the first identification of human remains using forensic genetic genealogy. However, the identification of America's unknown child strengthens our resolve. The victims of a homicide deserve, and their families deserve, no less.
Joseph Augustus Zarelli will no longer be that boy in the box and will no longer be unknown.
Authorities confirmed that both of Joseph's parents were deceased, though he left behind living half-siblings who might hold untold pieces of the puzzle. Police also shared glimpses of where Joseph had lived. He spent time near 61st and Market Streets, though Captain Jason Smith, head of the city's homicide unit, acknowledged the difficulty of piecing together events from so long ago. "I don't know what the neighbors knew or didn't know. The child did live past the age of 4, so there would have been somebody out there who saw him, perhaps another family member who hasn't stepped forward, or a neighbor who remembers seeing the child and what was happening in that household." Decades of anonymity, years of unanswered questions, and finally a breakthrough through DNA. Joseph Zarelli's tragic story remains a chilling reminder of the lives behind cold cases and a stark call for anyone with memories or clues to step forward.